I cannot get over this song.
I can't.
Hi robots, how you doing? Top left of the map, we have the Startail Zerg player once again in yellow.
Startail Golden.
Golden already down one game in the group. Has to be careful here. If he loses this game, it will be tough to advance. Starting to the top right, we have his opponent with his first game today. After winning one of those mini tournaments, got a seat.
Ace Team Savage.
He's a savage. Watching too much Pocahontas or something. He doesn't look very savage. He actually looks like very well groomed, and you know. Like
he looks like a pretty cool kid.
Like he takes care of himself. You know, he's fine.
He's one of those kids that is loved by the grandmothers. They're like, "Oh, you're such a cutie pie."
Yeah, you know. He always like writes thank you letters to his grandma when she sends him presents. He calls her like once a week. And, you know, just talks. And how was the tournament? Yeah, I didn't make it out of the up and downs, but I'm trying again next season. I was like, I'm really proud of you. That's savage. Yep. He might get out this time, though.
Yeah, he might get out. Yeah, I'm really interested to see his play. And, well, what exactly are we going to have from those two players? First of all, we're going into Hatch first. Both of them taking a bit of a risk here, of course, but still it's a big 4-player map, so it's a calculated one.
You know, in ZVZ, though, just Hatch first doesn't tell you a whole lot about what's going to happen next, because there's so many different branches of builders you can go to. You can try to do a big speedling attack without a Baneling Nest. You can do a speedling attack with Banelings, you know, with low drones. Or you can just try to play a standard game and get all that gas to take up to lair and get those mutas out.
Yeah, we had ZVZ yesterday where we saw a lot of mutalisks once again. If you look at more the NA server and the European server, what you see happening a little bit more these days is Zerg versus Zerg once again centering around more Roach and Roach Hydralisk oriented games. We have a very aggressive Link style that is popular on North America as well, where you go into upgraded Zerglings to dominate the ground. So a few options now that Blizzard changed the Spore Crawler. In case that you didn't catch that, Spore Crawlers now do even more extra damage against Mutalisks than they did before. Now a Spore Crawler can 3-hit a Mutalisk, which is of course really strong if you want to transition out of airplay.
Yeah. You still have to have a lot of spores if the Mutalisk count is high, because obviously someone can micro their Mutalisk back after it takes 2 shots and then you know, pull it back into the fight afterwards. So it can be a little bit difficult to deal with mutas in the late game, even with spores, but it does help you transition more comfortably into infestors to try to get those fungals out.
If you have like 2 Spore Crawlers per base, you're usually fine. 1 is not enough, especially when you want to guard the gas, but with 2 Spore Crawlers you are in a decent spot.
Yeah.
And right now we just have scouting going on. Golden knows already where his opponent spawned with the Overlords. Same is of course true for Savage, who now sends one of his Zerglings to the top left and to try to find out what exactly is happening here. Didn't have an Overlord in the vicinity just yet, but he's going to see that it's exactly the same build that we had from his opponent.
Both players start a Spine, and this is just to be careful against possible Baneling aggression I was talking about earlier. Queens want to get rid of that neutral depot so they can make a wall. He tries to sneak by, not going to get anything done there.
Good reaction here. Having the Queens at the low ground, same is also true for Savage. Both of them just trying to deny scouting information. And that's one of the things when you have such a big map. The Overlord won't be able to get into the main base, so the only thing that you can scout is the natural. And the Queens will usually just be there immediately to make sure that no Zergling sneaks into the main. And if you can do that, if you can pull that off, then your opponent is playing a little bit blind, doesn't know about when the gas goes down, and here we have it again. Golden is attempting to do the same thing, sneaking Lings into the main, but there's just no way for him to accomplish it.
Yeah. Not going to happen here. This Overlord, actually, if he commits, he could kill it. He does not, he's too scared. You know, you never want to get trapped in that where you send your Queens out, they get surrounded by Speedlings and die. Double Evolution Chamber going down for Golden. There's the Baneling Nest to be safe as well.
Yeah, so going into the double Evolution Chamber and the Baneling Nest, we could see those double upgrades. It's actually what we would expect at this point. We have the speed upgrade already being started for Savage. Both of them taking the gas here, or have taken the gas earlier. And so far, we don't see speed for Golden. He could start with the upgrades first here, heading into the Roach one right away.
Very unique opening. He looks like he just wants to hit a timing perhaps with 1-1 Roaches and speed.
Well, with the Roach one and the setup that he has a decent wall here. He has those extra Queens, and just look how tight that is. If he gathers up a bit of energy on the Queens, he can use it for Transfuse. +1 attack upgrade is now being started. He actually cancelled the speed upgrade for the Zerglings. He started it and then cancelled it again, going into the +1/+1 first.
Interesting choice of tech. I like it though. This is not. I mean, we have seen this before, but this is not the most standard way we see Koreans play ZVZ most of the time.
This is just going to be a clash of builds. We have the faster tech into layer for Savage, so he will definitely try to go. I would expect that he's going into Mutalisk here, especially since he's now taking his third base, trying to get the extra gas. He also plays this a little bit greedy. We don't even have a Bending Nest for him, just now adding the Roach Warren. But Golden has a lot of options here. He has a Roach Warren that gives him a little bit of safety. He can transition later on, but first of all, he wants to rely on this heavy upgraded circling style that we were talking about earlier, especially to hit that third base of Savage. That is the kind of the goal that you have with this.
Savage's build is looking a little bit more Roach heavy when it comes to aggression, possibly to deny the third base. He could even try to end the game with it, as he's going to range upgrades for his units, and he's getting his own Roach Warren.
A bit of a misstep here by Golden, detonating that Baneling without really doing anything. The problem for Savage at the beginning is going to be that his attack upgrade for the Roaches is going to be countered by the armor upgrade for the Zerglings.
Yeah.
But if we are heading into a Roach and Hydra composition later on down the road, then it's going to be a bit more difficult for Golden to make this work because he just does not have those attack upgrades.
Exactly. Notice he's cleared out a tumor or two here because he wants to just stop any possible aggression that Golden might hit on him first while he's trying to build up his Roach count. It's going to be a surprise attack.
And of course, by now, with Savage going into not only the Roaches, but also the speed upgrade and the double upgrades, it's quite transparent that he does not want to go into Mutalisk. After all, we have him going into this Roach composition. We talked earlier about that this is getting a little bit more popular. We saw this in Wings of Liberty all the time.
Yep.
Then coming into Heart of the Swarm, it changed with the Mutalisks. But right now, we have the Lings moving in. The +1/+1 is done for Golden.
Yeah, it looks like Golden does not really want to commit just yet here against that many Roaches. But he gets a really important scouting information, starts his Infestation Pit, and this ZVZ just looks more and more Wings of Liberty-esque from Savage's side all the time.
But now we have exactly the situation that I mentioned earlier. We have the +1 attack upgrade for the ranged units much later for Golden than we do for Savage. Savage was heading in towards this composition right from the beginning, even skipping the Baneling Nest, which is usually something that we rarely see. And now he's in a good spot. He will have the better upgrades for the Roaches, and this is a decent position for him to be in as long as he starts the next set of upgrades.
Yeah, he needs to start those ASAP because already Golden is starting the +2 Carapace. So it's going to cancel out a lot of his upgrades, or a lot of his attacks.
Savage is actually just trying to run with this. He's trying to hit the timing with 1-1 and doesn't even bother to go into +2/+2. He doesn't have anything saturated at the third base. He's trying to hit this timing and end the game.
Yeah, there's not a lot set up here. The Queens trying to run back. They have some transfuse energy. One transfuse does go down, but that's all he's going to get.
He can snipe the Roach Warren if he wants to, and he does.
Yeah, sniping that Roach Warren means no Roach speed, but also no Roach production. Here come the Lings back, though, and, you know, I think Golden might barely be able to hold this with the Queens and the Spines and good transfuses.
The reinforcements are the question. The path to safety for Savage is cut off. Reinforcements are streaming in, but Savage still has a lot more resource than his opponent. And as we already pointed out, without the Roach one, there's no way for Golden to build Roaches to counter this, and he's already down in upgrades.
He doesn't have Roach speed either, so it's a lot harder for him to micro, and those Infestors, you know, that's what he pours his gas into. I'm not sure if it's going to work for him.
He's trying to rebuild his Roach Warren, but he's already losing a lot of ground here. Golden might lose his second game in this up and down group. It doesn't look good for him. He's even pulling the drones now. He's desperate.
Yeah, he's losing way too much here. The Infestor's still not out, still not ready, and more Roaches rally now across the map.
Savage going for a 3-base timing here. Doesn't saturate the third base. It's just going into the double upgrades and then moving out with the Roaches. It's basically a strategy that we see a lot against Terran as well. And it works like a charm against Golden here, who just didn't expect this.
Misses the fungal. The second fungal hits only 5 Roaches here. And that is going to be game. He's going to lose his Infestors. All the gas he dumped into that.
He's down to 60 supply against 120. And Savage shows no mercy. Moves in and forces the GG.
Savage actually looking like a Savage with that push.
Yep.
That was very Savage-like what we saw.
Golden already down 2 games. He needs to win the next 2 if he wants to save himself a chance here. And he is up against, against Zerg players, Terran players from now on. He's up against Fantasy and against Yoda. And this is a really tough road for him. So far, it doesn't look good for Golden. Not at all.
Yeah, does not at all. You know, up next we have Trust against Fantasy, though, which I'm really looking forward to. Both these players looking very strong. They're both up, and one of them will take a 2-0 lead. And in this matchup, we've seen Fantasy show great macro games, but also a little bit of weakness to aggression. I don't know if Trust is going to be aggressive. He seems to be a little bit lacking in his micro at times.
Yeah, I don't know about the next game. I'm still trying to wrap my head a little bit around the game that we saw in the last game. It was just a lack of scouting or a lack of information that we had. Without the Baneling Nest, there were actually a lot of timings that Golden could have used to attack because the Baneling Nest for Savage, of course.
Yeah.
Because his Lings were really strong. But he went for this upgraded Ling style, and Savage, he completely cut a few corners here, didn't get a Baneling Nest, he went straight into the Roach Warren, got the +1/+1, got his third base for production, never intending to saturate it in the first place, and then just as soon as he had 1-1 done, he moved out with his Roaches, built a lot of them, and Golden just wasn't ready. He didn't have his upgrades, he didn't have the units, and was a very unfortunate spot for the StarTale player here. He was so overwhelmed trying to go into the infestation pit for the infestors. Had them out too late, then he missed the fungals as well, and he just couldn't hold a candle to this huge pressure play that we saw from Savage.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're going to have a 5-minute break before we do have our Protoss versus Terrans, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you in 5.